taking a leap of faith is not even a choice at this point. It's an obligation. It's when we take that leap of faith, we decide to show up every day and step into that unknown is when you actually make the big leap. And that's when you quantum leap, right?
Oh,
So, yeah.
that is so important. People need to hear that. Like, that just hit me so hard when you said taking a leap of faith it's not a
Yeah.
choice, it's an obligation. Yeah, if you want to change, it's an obligation.
When you need it so much, you are just operating from fear all the time. You're already living as someone who lost their
I think
desire.
sometimes in manifestation, we're like, don't accept anything less than your desire. But it's like also what you resist persists. So if you're resisting that reality, you're pulling that towards you too, because you're still focusing on what you don't want.
Welcome to the Divine Hangout. I'm your host, Hillary Jubilee. It is my intention that when you listen to this podcast, you experience an increase in peace, abundance, and divine miracles in your life experience. If you love all things spirituality, wellness, healing, manifestation, and miracles, you are in the exact right place at the exact right time. Let's enter the portal together.
Welcome back to the Divine Hangout. It's Hillary, and today I'm joined by Rozana, and I'm super excited because we've done a few collabs in the past, and we always rock it. So Rozana is a self-concept and mindset coach, and we've been Instagram friends for a while, so excited to create with you on this one.
So excited to be here. I love our collabs. It's one of these connections that it just feels like, we can open up any topic or subtopic and we'll just smash it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because our views and our experiences align, even if it's not 100% the same, but they align so much, and yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and we're always like bouncing off each other, it seems, every time, and it just like the time just flies by. So yay, exciting. So today we want to cover self-love and body image. So maybe I'll just start by asking you, like, what has your journey been with self-love, and like how has that been important on your life journey or manifestation journey or coaching journey, or like where does self-love play a role, and like why is it important?
Well, I would say like the first 18, 19 years of my life, I had a lot of toxic relationships and trauma and a lot of negative experiences with like bullying and things like that. And, eventually I moved to the UK where I wanted to study my, HR, which I did, yay. But when I lived alone for the first time, it was like, it's the thing that I wanted, but at the same time, it's because I had to be with myself so much that I was forced to get to know myself, that I had to meet all of my insecurities, things that I knew were there, but I didn't want to like fully look at. And eventually, with time, when you first travel, it's exciting, you meet people, and then, excuse me, when that starts to like die down a little bit, and you're like in the, okay, yeah, I'm great, it's great, I'm here. The Everything comes up, and the thing that was coming up for me the most was my body image, and that has been a journey in itself because like I was so obsessed all the time with how I look in a negative way, at least, that even if I was sitting alone, even if I was my own place alone, I would still like cover my legs or whatever. I would still like have something on so that I don't look like my thighs or my arms or anything like that. Because I felt so ashamed and I thought it was like, ugh, this thing that's icky and why would anyone want to be with me? And it didn't help that I had a toxic person around at that time who was also, you know, telling me over and over that, I need to change my appearance or I need to improve this about myself. And, you being your own critic sucks. And also having someone confirm that to you is like, it's painful. And eventually, one day, like, I noticed that, just a trigger warning, I had very unhealthy eating habits that, there I went through the cycle of like starving, binging, starving, binging, starving, binging, feeling guilty, and then all over again. And I noticed like I was not allowing myself to go out much, or I would like worry about like an event that's happening in like 2 weeks because I'm like, oh shit, how is my stomach gonna look? Pardon my language. I was like, oops, how is my stomach gonna look? How are my arms gonna look in this outfit? And then suddenly one day, like, it clicked that, girl, you're missing out on life because you're so afraid of how you're gonna look. And, when I looked at the spirals that I had, the things that I would text my friends, like, oh, I'm so sick of my body, I just wish I would wake up in a different body. I would always go down the route of, like, it's not just my body that I hate. I would go down the route of, like, and this thing about me, and this thing about me, and this thing that's not working out in my life. And, I suck at this, and I'm not good enough at this. So, damn, looking back, it's like I'm a completely different person. That was 2019, I believe. And that was the year where I was like, I'm done. This is too much. I need to do something. And I actually started with going to therapy, where we were doing like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. I was gonna say CBT, CBT, and we talked obviously about childhood trauma, my past experiences, current experiences, and all that stuff. And during that journey, I felt like so pulled towards like creating a blog, and it was a blog all about self love, all about confidence, um, how I deal through my anxiety, and me just like starting to own who I am and saying goodbye to societal and cultural norms where they tell you who you have to be good enough, or to be a woman, or all of that stuff. And I started like embracing that more and more and getting out of my shell and my comfort zone. Eventually, I also started following people who were speaking up about similar stuff, and I noticed like the more I follow these people, the more like it stretches my mindset and allows me to like start to think the same way. And that's why I harp a lot on the importance of like the content that we listen to. And because it's not just about like you are the power and you can create what you want, it's about what is the exact kind of mindset, like what does it look like to live as someone who knows that you're worthy, that you're lovable, that you're a winner. um and where did I stop at? I said the blog. Yeah, so eventually I started also like taking part in like social activities, and just putting myself out there more, and just like wearing the exact things that I was told I look bad at. The things that I was told, like, oh, you need to lose weight, I would like wear them and be like, you see that? And eventually, mid 2020 was when I started my business, and I actually wanted to start something surrounding self love. Then I went through manifestation, self concept, and now we're back to like self concept, manifestation, and self love in a way. So, yeah.
I love that. So what do you think helped you the most transition towards loving yourself more? Like, do you think the therapy played a huge role, or like how did it just like occurred to you, like, hey, I'm losing out on life. Like I need to shift my image of myself. Like, what was it that, like, was there some sort of turning point, or like what helped you the most in shifting that perception?
I think just like sitting in my room and just realizing, like, holy girl, you're in uni, you're in your second year, and you saw your friend like twice the entire year, and you're just like sitting worrying all the time about the calories in a banana, or all of that stuff. And I was just like, I can't live that way anymore. I'm tired. I think for most people, it's when one day you have this breakdown and you go through this like depressive phase, and you realize like, I can't live this way anymore. And I didn't go through all the stuff that I've been through in my life just to stop here. That cannot be like the end of my story. There's more. And also, like, maybe it's also something I've always had, which is like, no matter how small I feel, or how hopeless I feel, it's like I know that I'm not gonna stop until I get to where I want to go. So that kind of drive also was like a beacon of hope in a way.
Yeah. And would you say, like, when you started to shift to more acceptance and self-love and like owning like who you are, would you say that the circumstances in your reality like started to shift to reflect that back to you?
Oh yeah, definitely. I found myself like starting to like set more boundaries, and I noticed like, why would I even try to manifest toxic people? Like, I don't
Literally.
feel drawn to that anymore. Like, and when I look back, like, this is the thing I always tell my clients, it's like, when you look back, it's like most of the time you realize like there's nothing there to miss. Even the good parts, is what makes the relationship toxic, which is like one day you're like the best thing that ever happened to me, and then the next day you're like the worst human ever. So
It's so like crazy how your own perception changing, like you see the person in a different light. And this has happened to me like in the last year where like I wanted to touch on this, like, because it's like where anywhere like self-love is lacking will get reflected to you in your reality.
yeah.
So like, for example, like if I'll come back to the relationships thing, but like, for example, with body image, like your actual body, like I have this memory from middle school where this girl like made this comment. We were in like gym class change room and I'm changing, like everyone's changing, whatever, minding my own business. And some girl's like complaining about how she looks or something. And then this other girl, she's like, oh, don't worry, Hillary's legs are bigger, and like laughs. And that always just like stuck with me. But like it wouldn't bother you if you already didn't have that thought about yourself. Like if you already need to be insecure about something, or like them saying it and then you accepting it as true, like it's your own, we need to take responsibility for our own perception. Like, yeah, it's not okay for someone to say that, but it's like, it wouldn't trigger you if you didn't already have the insecurity. So there's that. And then like realizing like, it's just going to get reflected. Somebody's going to say something that reflects to you what you already like have an insecurity about. So it's the same thing with relationships. It's like if you are disrespecting yourself, like use myself as an example, my previous relationship, like it's a lack of self-love to allow someone to treat you with disrespect. Like it's not me disrespecting myself to allow that in my energy field and to allow that in my experience. Like until I finally was like, okay, just completely cut it out. And then like, that's an act of self-love, no matter how hard it might be in the moment. It's like that needed to happen to show love to myself. And then everything else like shifted into place. And like everything that I wanted to manifest that was taking forever is like now manifesting because I chose to cut something out that was like bringing me down.
Yeah, I said that to you earlier where I was like, I feel like you needed to like leave that relationship so that you step into everything you needed to step into. And I do believe we can manifest anyone. It's just about, is it worth it? That's the question every time. And what I noticed, like speaking of like you're going back to your question about what shifted in my life, not only have my friendships changed, that they all feel incredibly aligned and we have similar values, and they're also open to like the beliefs, like spiritual beliefs that I have, even if like they're not fully there, and that's okay. I accept that as well. It's about them. But it's like there's openness and there's acceptance. And I also noticed in my business there was like a huge shift in the types of people that I attract to my page and the clients that I work with. Like I there's not a single call that I get onto with a client that I'm not like, yeah, I'm gonna talk to this client. I love talking to them because it just feels so aligned and we feel so connected. And it's almost like the audience is also like not just respecting my boundaries, it's almost like they admire that I step into that role where I say, this is what is allowed, this is what isn't allowed, and that people even ask me like, how do you develop that firmness and that confidence? And you know just like the way I'm also approaching food and diets and all that, I do exercise, I do practice like mindful eating and a healthier lifestyle, and I have specific body goals, but I'm not approaching it from this place of like I need to do this so that I feel attractive. It's like I'm beautiful now and when I get there. And this is, I think, like the thing that's missing with most people is that the weight loss or the weight gain or the muscle gain, whatever, it's more of like the how, like messing with the middle. Like we get this thing so that we feel good enough. And then when you get there, you're worried about getting all the weight back, right? It's like a never ending process. So I noticed like I feel a lot more comfortable in the clothes I wear. I am a lot stronger with like my beliefs about myself. And it's almost like 'cause the more I love myself, the more I'm like, I deserve better than just to listen to these doubts. Like we talk about mental diets, but the thing that has honestly made it easy for me is like me just realizing like, ugh, this gives me the ick to even think of myself that small. Like I deserve to go so big and get myself even more and give my clients even more. And I noticed like the more I tune into my own self love, the more I'm open to like giving people also love, because I'm not pouring from an empty dry cup. It's like I want to also give it, it's not just about wanting to manifest receiving it. And
Yeah. Like you, yeah. And the other thing I want to say was like that because everyone is you pushed out, like when you like love on yourself and respect yourself, it and the other way around, like the way that you treat others. So like if you're judging yourself, you're going to be judging others. And if you're judging others, it's you're inviting people to judge you because you're putting out that energy and you're asking for that energy back. So like the more that you respect, you know, other people around you and your environment or whatever, like everything in your experience, love, just like exuding love and respect to not only yourself and your own body and your mind, but like also like those in your experience, like that's going to get reflected back to you because everyone is you push it.
yeah, definitely agreed. And I've also noticed a lot of times that since I've started like healing more, I've been seeing people heal more. Because like my circle used to be surrounded by nothing wrong with obviously being broken, but people who would always like immediately like fall into depressive phases. People who would like not be able to like create the balance between like being there for themselves and also being there for me. Um, you know, people projecting their insecurities all the time onto me. So once I made the change within like healing myself, I've noticed people are becoming also more accountable and more open to like these self-help topics. And sometimes I even talk about a book and I see like someone who has never been into like spiritual stuff is like reading it like, what?
I love that. Yeah, another thing I wanted to say about body image is that like I think the default for most people is the critical and like what is wrong and what's not working and what needs to change. And that's like what society tells us and like what we're taught. A lot of, I don't know, a lot of people growing up, like I feel like, I don't know, just I'm aware of like in childhood, the years 0 to 5 or 0 to 8 are like the most important in your sponge and like you're just absorbing all of the information that's happening in your world. And like I just know that I witnessed, you know, my mom like saying, you know, negative things about her body. And so then that like transfers onto me. Like I have the same body type as her. So like I must have this wrong too. Like these things are like people pick up things in childhood or whatever. I have a interesting story that happened recently with my partner and I. Yeah. Okay, let me go to the beginning. So we were having like a conflict issue of like him having a jealousy issue. And so this was like a problem that we were dealing with for a few weeks. And yeah, it was like, it's so difficult to navigate sometimes. I'm just like, like trying to see it from your side and then just getting really triggered on my side of like not wanting to be controlled. And so anyway, it was this issue that was like ongoing. And we did a trip to Vancouver. And we went to this nude beach. It's called Wreck Beach. And it's a nude beach. People don't wear clothes. Like you can if you want, but you don't have to. And so we went here and my partner was like, I'm not going to like do that. Like, I'm not taking my clothes off. And I was like, oh, well, I am. And I'm just like laying there and, you know, everybody's there, like just loving themselves and like being in just confident in their own body. And everyone's just like letting it all hang out. And they're just like, just normalizing like the human body. And like, anyway, so we get there to the beach and Joe, my boyfriend he had this idea to like resolve this conflict to write in a journal like how we're both feeling and then read each other's entries so that we didn't feel like triggered to, you know, like have a conversation and then you feel defensive and then you want, so he's just like, let's write down how we feel, let's read each other's and then like talk about it after like calmly. I was like, okay, that's a good idea. We get to Wreck Beach. I don't have a journal. And I'm like, I'm not texting all this on my phone. Like, I really wish I had a journal so that I could write this and we could just get this over with and like deal with this conflict. And then I was okay, like, let's do a meditation and do a visualization of this issue being resolved. I was like, finally, let's go back to basics and just like imagine this being done. So we set a 7-minute timer, did a little visualization just like on the beach of like, okay, this issue's resolved. And then we just went about our day, whatever. And a few minutes later, like a few hours later, he had this epiphany and he was just like, just being around the people, like, you know, on the nude beach, he ended up like taking off his swim trunks, like just, he's like felt liberated. And he had this realization that society over sexualizes the human body, and that like it's just a body, and like the body is art, and the body is like beautiful, and it's not always about sex. And it's just this whole perspective shift that came from like us doing that meditation, but also just being in the energy of everyone being in self-acceptance and witnessing others being comfortable and confident in their body, and then like that giving you permission to do it for yourself. And then also like the layer of how society just like over sexualizes everything. And it's like not always about that. Like just because somebody isn't wearing clothes doesn't mean anything. Like it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean you're asking for anything. It's just like, it just is. And it just sort of like, yeah, it was just a really cool perspective shift on like, you know, it's not like an everyday thing that we do. So it was just like interesting to witness his whole perspective being changed. And then it felt like all of his trauma was dissolved in like a matter of a few hours because of witnessing that and experiencing it.
Wow. Yeah, honestly, like the moment we realized like this thing is just like a program, it's not actually like an issue, or more so, it is a subtle issue where everything is like over sexualized, as you said. Like anything we do is over sexualized, and sometimes like it's like we feel also the need to like show up a certain way or act a certain way or whatnot so that we feel accepted or so that we fit into a
Yeah.
specific mold. And, you know, in the end, like, no one is the same. And I think that if we're all programmed to be the same way, we might as well just, like, you know, be aliens or whatever, robots. Like, we're all going to be the same. It's like the beautiful experience about this is that we get to like express ourselves through different clothing, through different styles, and through different outfits and different shapes and sizes, and not hold that judgment towards ourselves or anyone else. It's like,
Yeah.
if it's not your thing, bro, don't go for it, you know?
Yeah.
You know? You don't need to put that on to me. Like, and I love the fact that you both sat down and allowed yourself to like express how you felt, even if it was just like through a meditation. The fact that you were even willing to like open up about it, that alone is like, you know, the thing that clears the resistance. And I know like most people don't want to like look at these parts of them, and that in itself is self-rejection, because we're
Totally.
not allowing ourselves to look at what is happening within. And at the same time, we hold all the space in the world for our friendships. We allow them to cry, we allow them to vent, but we're not there for ourselves, so we don't understand what our needs are. And so we
Mm.
project that onto others. That can be through jealousy, that can be through arguing too much, that can be through being too defensive. So yeah, I love the, like, it sounds like a very healthy connection where you're just like both being open and honest about your views, even if they can like be you can disagree, but it's in a way where you're like taking responsibility to, okay, this is my projection, but also this is what I want to say to you. And
Exactly.
that's also an act of self-love and love for the other person.
Yeah. And we did still do the journaling thing after, like the next day or whatever, like journaling and reading each other's and talking about it still, just to like make sure we all know how everybody feels. And yeah, it's like it's interesting. Like it's my first conscious relationship where both people are like aware of, you know, like we have subconscious patterns and like we're projecting them onto each other, and like yeah, and just taking conflict the view of like it's not you against me, it's like us against the issue. It's just like framing it that way where it's like, okay, we're a team and like the issue's over here and like let's tackle it together. It's kind of like a new perspective for me in a relationship to deal with conflict. So yeah, it's been a very interesting journey. But yeah, just the reason I brought that up was like the body image thing about like,
Yeah.
you know, witnessing others just being like in their element, just like letting it all, and just they're not judging me, I'm not judging them. It's just like we're just chilling out like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, like I've been like reflecting on this recently, which is like the reason why the world has like a lot of messed up stuff. It's because no one is in touch with themselves anymore. No one really like is tapped into like that deep love for themselves, for the world. And so people project that through hate, through anger, through you know, you did this to me, just like finger pointing and not taking any accountability of how we feel. revenge, all that stuff. And if more of us were just connected more within, then we like truly tapped into that love that we already have present within us, we wouldn't be projecting that much anger and hate onto the world. And the world would literally be healed. Most people who are in pain were probably abused or went through something difficult as a child. And, they grew up with that. They weren't taught how to heal through it and love themselves through that healing. So there's like this sense of like the hatred against the world, the hatred towards ourselves, the hatred towards also the fact that we have these human emotions. And that's manifestation in a sentence. It's like people hate that they have feelings, people hate that they have sometimes negative thoughts, people reject the fact that self-love is important part of a manifestation. And what we tend to do is like try to change people and make them show up a certain way, instead of like, I love them for who they are now, and when they show up as that version, I will love them. At the end of the day, I'm the person that I'm spending the rest of my life with. So I'm the person that I have to put first, and I'm the person who I have to love and heal, because that's who I'm going to be with for 80 plus years, right? So, yeah, kind of went a bit on a tangent, but there we go.
Well, what you're saying at the beginning of like a lot of people, like how our world would be so different if everybody just like looked within and, leaned more into the love that's already present within. The beautiful thing about that is that the power of one person, like the power of just doing it yourself, because like the more that we embody that, like, those of us who know about it, like embody it and practice, unconditional love of yourself and of others, the more that you lean into that, and the more that you like just embody it yourself, is the more that you lead by example, and others want to follow that, because it's a very attractive is not the right word. It's a contagious type of energy that like others will start to do the same thing, and it's like a ripple effect. So really, it's just like if we all just focused on doing it ourselves, then it will ripple out.
Yeah, it always starts with like one person, and that can be for anything. It can, like, when there was a point when no one spoke about women's rights. There was a point where no one ever spoke about mental health, the importance of mental health on both women, men, all genders, whatever. There was a point where someone just decided to wake up and you know take the risk of like making that post about, oh, this is actually what you need to get what you want. Oh, this is the kind of responsibility that you need to take in order to let go of this mindset. Oh, did you know that actually you are in a victim state? So it's like it always takes a level of boldness. And I even said recently that like taking a leap of faith is not even a choice at this point, it's an obligation. It's when we take that leap of faith, we decide to show up every day and step into that unknown, is when you actually make the big leap. And that's when you quantum leap, right?
Oh,
So yeah.
that is so important. People need to hear that. Like, that just hit me so hard when you said taking a leap of faith is, what did you say? It's an obligation. It's not a choice. It's an obligation. Yeah. If you want to change, it's an obligation. Like, oh, that is so important for people to understand. Like, that reminds me of like, in between, when I broke up with my ex, like the really toxic one. And then I recognized this pattern in myself of like seeking validation from men, or like seeking love from outside of myself. And so it would be like these situationships or like F-boy situations. And I just recognize this pattern of like, hey, I'm still seeking this out. Like, I don't know, like not that age matters, but it's like, okay, like I'm like 30 years old now, and it's like, I'm still doing it. And it's just like, the pattern became so apparent to me that I just couldn't unsee it. And I was like, hey, it's me choosing this behavior. It's not like, I was just observing like the type of people that were coming in. And it's just like, this is what I'm allowing / seeking out / whatever, like I'm allowing this to happen. And it was a leap of faith or whatever, like to cut everything off and just be like, okay, I'm not allowing these people like in my reality. Like I will literally be alone. I don't care if I have to be alone for like years. Like I'm waiting for the right person. And I just like firm energetic decision, leap of faith to like stop doing what was so comfortable to me, like to like seek that, validation and comfort in like these situationships or whatever, and like stop doing that. And to stop doing that was like a bit of a challenge, because it's like, it's what I'm used to. It's
Yeah.
like, it's comfortable. It's like, it's like easy, like self-esteem boost or whatever. And then saying no to that, and like then it tests you. It's like, oh, they're still gonna keep on, like, are you sure? Like, keep on asking. It's like, no. Like, really cutting it off was just like, I don't know. It's just being stuck in a habit, and then just being like, okay, no, I'm not doing this anymore. Leap of faith. Like, let's just see what happens. I don't care if I have to wait years. Like, anyway. And then it was literally 4 weeks after I like firmly stopped and made that decision of like, I will be alone until the right person comes. 4 weeks later is when I met Joe.
This explains, this whole concept of like being okay with it not happening. It's not about like we're manifesting that we don't want it to happen. It's that when you need it so much, you are just operating from fear all the time. You're already living as someone who lost their desire. And so it
Yeah.
never like comes through or stays. So like what you said is like really interesting, especially this concept of like I'm willing to be alone. Because that's what people fear the most. That's why people have fear of abandonment. That's why people feel uncomfortable when they stay alone. And that's why there's such a need for companionship. And while we are social beings and that is part of like the human need, it gets to a point where it's like people almost feel ashamed of like having dinner alone, of being single or being like the only friend who's single in the group, of like saying that, oh, I've been single for like 2 years. That, oh my god, the longer I am alone, the more it means that I'm unwanted or I'm undesirable. And like all these negative connotations are attached to just a state. And it's like, if you cannot be alone, how can you hold that relationship energetically? Because like you say you want it and you continue to try to seek it, but when it's here, you question like, oh, what did I do to receive that much love? Or you continue to try to impress them or to seek their validation. So it's not really happily ever after, is it? So yeah, being okay with being alone, and that's like one of the big parts of my journey, which is like, I'm gonna go out and take myself on a dinner date. I don't care.
Yeah.
You can all look at me, take some inspo when you look at me.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It's so funny. Like, even you could replace that with any fear. Like, there's this example in one of Florence Scovel Shinn's books about this person who had this, the superstition of walking under a ladder. They had this super like huge fear of walking under a ladder, didn't want to like go around it or go near it, or like they had this, they're going to have like 7 years of bad luck if they walk under a ladder, whatever, like very strong belief about that. And she was going to Florence Scovel Shinn for like help overcoming her fears, I think. And like, there's this example where she had to go to the bank, and there was like in her path was this ladder, and she couldn't go around it. Like, she had to go under it to like go where she needed to go. But she was so scared. She's like, oh my God, like I can't do it. So she turned around and like went out of the bank and like started down the street away from the bank. And then she stopped and she was like, wait, like I can do this. Like I can do this. She turns around, she goes back, and then the ladder's gone when she goes back. She doesn't actually have to do it. She was willing to overcome her fear, but she actually didn't have to. And so like that is exactly the exact same thing. It's like, if you're constantly like, okay, I can't be alone, like I'm judging myself for like being single, or like I'm getting too old, or whatever the thing is, it's like just accepting the worst case scenario and like fully leaning into like, okay,
Yes.
what would actually happen if I was alone? Like, I will be okay. Like, realizing that you will be okay, and like would be willing to face that. And yeah, it's like a very nuanced thing, because I think sometimes in manifestation we're like, don't accept anything less than your desire, but it's like also what you resist persists. So if you're resisting that reality, you're pulling that towards you too, because you're still focusing on what you don't want. I was just so willing to like wait however long. I was like, I'm gonna love myself and like have fun and like make the most of being single, and like not allow shitty people into my reality anymore. And like, it'll be better even if that person doesn't come along for a year or two. Like, I'll still be respecting myself more, and I'll like love myself more, because I'm not allowing these situationships to continue. So yeah, it's just ironic. And then obviously it just flowed in so fast.
Yeah, that's the epitome of like manifestation. So one of the things that I definitely noticed, like when we said, it's like, when people say it's not this the thing that's the problem, it's like the meaning that you attach to it. And then when we look at being single, there are two types of single people. There's the one that's only like, I'm the single friend, watch me, and I'm the one who's gonna be like making my own money and building my own business. And when the man comes through, he's gonna be so lucky, or That's even if you like want to be in a relationship. And then there's the other person who sees it as like something to be ashamed of and insecure about. And that's like literally the a representation of your perception of self and how important it is. Because the person who is like, yay me, look at me, single, whatever, they're probably the ones that are approached by a lot of people like whenever they go out, and like their confidence just radiates, so it's just it kind of like grabs people's attention in a way. But the ones who are like ashamed and they see themselves as small, it's like you don't even allow yourself to meet people because of how you keep yourself in such a box, like, oh, no one should see me, and oh my god, but I'm this, but I'm that, and this thing about me, and maybe no one wants to be with me because I'm not good enough, because I still need to change this about me, instead of like leading with an open heart, being willing to like show all of your um imperfections, and I'm air quoting this, your imperfections, your flaws, your insecurities, being okay with like people seeing that, and also loving yourself and allowing someone else to love you through it. That's literally unconditional love. That's unconditional love and unconditional self-love as well. So yeah.
Yeah. That version of the single person who's like, I need to change X, Y, and Z. That was literally me before I met my last, like my ex. Like I was just like, and when you're in that state of like, oh, like I need to like lose weight for someone to love me, or like I need to change this about myself, or like just so insecure about who I am or something. Like when you're in that state, um, you can only attract what the level that you're at. So like you're not going to attract somebody like at like the person that you're meant to be with is like you should be like the best version of yourself like as you can. Like you should be confident in yourself and like love yourself for who you are without anybody. And then that's when the right person would come. But the state of being like I need that person's love to validate me, that state, it's like I just literally just like went wherever the wind blew me. Like it wasn't like I wasn't making a choice or decision of like, do I want to be with this person? It was like, oh, this person wants to be with me. Like it's so amazing. Like they're so cool, and like putting them on a pedestal. Like they're so amazing. And like it makes me look good to be with them because like X, Y, and Z or whatever. Like that's kind of how it was. It was just like, oh, they're gonna save me, and like this whole like distorted thought system of like they're doing me a favor by like asking me to be with them. And I was like, so it was like a compliment that they wanted to be with me. And it's like, no, you should be qualifying them. You should be qualifying the person. Like, do I like them? Are we compatible? Like, are they going to be a good parent if you want kids? Like, do I want to be like them? Like, do they inspire me in any way? Like, do I like the way they treat other people? Like really just qualifying that person. Are they qualified to be in my experience?
Yes.
So important.
I agree. And it's definitely like, it's actually a privilege for someone to be with you.
Yes.
Like someone having access to your time, to
Yes.
your energy, to your space, knowing your trauma, your family. That's a privilege. And that's why it shouldn't just be given to anyone. And that's where I say, don't settle for less. In that bit, it's like, not everyone gets to have access to me. Not because I think I'm better than anyone, but it's like, when I let someone in, I want us both to have a great experience together. And just like I want you to have the best of me, I want to have the best of you. And like this is like really an interesting concept that I came across recently. I was listening to a podcast and she said like you want some, we're speaking now in the context of like heterosexual relationships just for the sake of like what she said. She said like you want someone who's like he sees himself as a king, approaches you from his king energy and sees you as his queen.
Yes.
Because when you have someone who just sees you as their queen, and unfortunately, that's what a lot of the manifestation teachings are about. Like, they have you on a pedestal. They can't live without you. They can't breathe without you. They can't eat without you. It's like, I'm not looking for a newborn baby. So, and what tends to happen is that we attract someone who's emotionally unavailable. They always feel insecure around us. They, these relationships where someone keeps leaving because they say, "Oh, you're too good for me, not good enough for you," and it's not the vibe.
You're like an equal exchange of energy. Like,
yeah,
viewing, like you can view them as, like as God or as, the highest version of themselves or as a king or whatever the pronoun is. It doesn't matter, queen, whatever. And then, but also, yeah, I also am that as well. I'm also like viewing myself as a queen or whatever, like viewing, but like also that you're not both better than anybody else. It's not like we're king and queen and everyone else sucks. It's like, it's just like in general, like seeing the divinity in that person and in yourself and in everybody. But, yeah, just anytime there's any type of pedestal, it's going to be a unbalanced energy. It's something weird's going to happen. Like, yeah.
Yeah, this whole concept of like pedestal, it's like someone has to be small for the other person to be on a pedestal to begin with.
Yeah.
And like you, let's say, keeping yourself small for someone else to like rise is already creating an unhealthy dynamic, and it's definitely an act of like lack of self-love. It's like they are more important than me. It's better to tend to their needs, mine maybe if we have time. And like one of the things that I talk about when it comes to like self-love, it's like if you're showing up for people when you know it's a time to show up for yourself, let's say you're going through something, you're not being selfless and you're not being loving either. It's actually like part of me a selfish act, because it's like I have to do this so that they don't think that this of me, so that they don't leave me. You're not actually showing up authentically that I'm here for you because I love you, and you're actually the best around people when you're the best with yourself. When you have your cup full, you are able to approach people from that aspect, and it's like the more you can heal within, the more you can give, not just like give better advice and be supportive. It's like the amount of space that you can hold is the capacity that you have is so much grander that you actually love being there for them. It's not anymore like a means to an end or out of fear or out of insecurity. It's just like I want to be there for them and they can be there for me. And the more we actually allow ourselves to practice like setting boundaries, such as like, hey, I love you and I want to be there for you, but I think today I need to be with myself, and as soon as I'm better, I'll be there for you tomorrow. That way, you also allow the other person to be able to set their boundaries and express themselves with you. Like, that can actually make you both feel safer. And so, like, constantly like, putting other people's needs first is us keeping ourselves in survival mode and in being unsafe. Like, we seek safety so much in money and career and love, but acting on these fears is actually what's keeping us unsafe. It's not actually that the reality is necessarily unsafe.
Totally. And the point that you're making about like putting other people's needs before yourself, like that was totally like what I would do in my last relationship, where I would just like, oh, like I would just cancel plans or like make sure my schedule's open so that like when he's available, I'm like right there. Like didn't, like have my own thing happening. I was just like waiting on bated breath for his text, or like, when is he going to be available? Like I need to like make sure that, I'm there, and like just completely like dishonoring myself and my life by like always being available at the last second. And then like even in friendships, like if you're like just doing them a favor or something like that, if it doesn't feel right, it's like the energy behind what you're doing is really important. Like if you don't have the capacity to do that right now, then you should honor yourself, and like saying no is a form of self-love as well. Because if you're doing something but you're feeling icky and resentful about it, that's not a good energy to be doing something in, because it's just that type of energy that you're going to be getting back to yourself. So like, yeah, making sure that you take care of your own needs first, so that when you are like helping somebody else, then it's coming from a genuine, true place of like, that you actually love helping them, not that you feel like you have to so that you'll like me, and that fear of like, you're not going to love me anymore if I don't do this for you.
Yeah.
Super important.
Anything that we actually put above us will always like lead us to like the not the greatest space. And I know that like even like as a business owner, it's like I noticed like if I go on my stories and I'm not in the energy and it's just like to get people in, people don't sign up for
Yeah.
But when I'm in this space of like, okay, I really want to talk about this topic or do this meaning training on my stories, I get on there. I'm excited to talk about it. People pick up on the energy, and even like the way I relay the message is a lot more like potent, and it's coming from a place of passion, and it excites people. So even like putting money above you, like it's not something that lasts forever, and that's why we've seen a lot of coaches like back away from like a specific manifestation topic such as SP, because it's like it's not really their passion. And so when they go online, like they get snappy about it, or they try to give you advice and then they need a break for, I don't know, a month or two. So not demeaning like the topic of SP, just like talking about like the sense of like showing
Yeah.
up just for like the sake of like either money or clients or whatnot. Even like for me, something that was big is like always responding to clients all the time, because like I just want to be there for them and I want to support them. And what it would do is like it would honestly drain me so much. And I remember even staying until 4 in the morning before. It would drain me so much that at some point I wanted to actually give up on my business. I was like, I hate this job.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So now I'm like, twice a day, I get on my DMs twice a day, and you know that before you even sign up. So
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah. So what are some other, I wrote down some things that like self-love could look like. So we hit on like setting boundaries, cutting someone out of your life that isn't like benefiting you. If they're just always bringing you down, always negative, always complaining, like, because you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. If you're constantly around people who are like, saying why you can't do something or doubting your dreams or like talking you out of things that you want to do or like complaining or they always have some drama or something, like that energy is going to affect you. So yeah, like cutting, or sometimes we can't, like if somebody has a kid with somebody and then they have to see them, it's like just making it minimal contact with people if you need to see them, like that have that type of attitude, and saying no to things that doesn't feel right with it. Like if you need to say no to somebody, like if they're asking you to do something, if like, don't just say yes so that they'll like you, like, saying no sometimes can be self-love. Telling someone how you feel rather than bottling it up could be a form of self-love. And yeah, and like also treating yourself with utmost like care and love could look like what you're putting in your body, how much sleep you're getting, if you're exercising, like whatever that looks like for you. It doesn't need to be like a certain rigid thing, but like whatever intuitively feels right for you, like taking care of your physical body is a form of self-love as well. What do you think? What else do you think there?
When you were saying, I just want to add like one of the points when
Yeah.
you said doing something for the sake that someone likes you, like
Mm-hmm.
something clicked right away, which is like, even if they like you, they won't like you to the extent that they would love you if you were yourself,
Yes.
Like, no, like that's, when like you first meet someone and you like this person, you want to be with them. Sometimes like you paint like a perfect picture of yourself, but you actually fall in love with them when you truly get to know them throughout the relationship.
Yeah.
Not because they seem perfect at the beginning. That's just like the phase of like crush and attraction and all that stuff. So that's just like something I wanted to add because it just like came to my mind.
Yeah.
Other things I would say, something like that I was like really sitting with this year is like self-love is actually being able to like look back at all of your past versions and actually love them.
That's what I was gonna bring up next. That's yes, your inner child too, / even just last year, or like like looking at different versions of yourself and not berating them for choices they made or whatever. Like she was doing the best she could at that time. Love her, grateful for her, like, because if you're holding resentment to any past version of yourself, it's still going to affect like your vibration or your energy like right now. So having the full love for the previous versions. Sorry if I cut you off.
No, it's okay. My bad. Yeah, I definitely agree, because it's like, when I've seen this also in the community a lot of times where people say, oh my God, I changed so much. Like, ugh, I can never look back at my past stuff. Like, ugh, ew. And it's actually usually that thing, like, let's say the teen phase where they were like the awkward one, where they describe themselves as the awkward one. That's usually where most of the resistance will lie, and the most healing that would help you like to move through the current resistance so that you step into that version that you want to become. And like being able to look back and not feel shame is like the key. And that doesn't like take away from like taking responsibility, let's say, from any past mistakes that you made. It's like, I can acknowledge that I made mistakes and see it as like, okay, I will use this as a learning experience that moving forward I will do 1, 2, and 3, and I will not do A, B, and C, but I'm willing to like forgive that past version of me and let her go. And one of the things I love to actually do in meditation is like meet different past versions of me and like speak to them, connect with them, see what they needed at that time, and then like, bring them all together and integrate. It's like, like a little family within. And you get so much insight and understanding of yourself and why like you're showing up a certain way right now, why you're still like not able to let go of the old story. Like people talk about this a lot, just let go of the old story. And you see the same person asking the same question for like years because you don't actually know what's keeping you stuck. And a lot of times like the answer is in your past. So being able to connect and, fall back in love with all these parts of you, forgive, release, take what needs to be learned, that's what actually allows you to step into like what people call your highest version.
I love that. Yeah. I had a real-time example of this like the other day where somebody commented on one of my old videos from like 2 years ago, and it was like I did like, the climbing a ladder challenge, Neville Goddard. I did that in a vlog. It was actually a really cool idea. Anyway, so like I was rewatching it. Somebody commented on it being like, "Oh, I want to try this," or whatever. And then I was rewatching it and I looked like a completely different person. And like some of the things that I said, I was just like so cringe. I was like, "Oh, like why are you saying that? Like don't say that." Like, but I was like, "No, like, you know what? Like she's showing up, she's making videos, like proud of her, love her." Just like switching it because it was like, oh, it's like this is a little cringy. Like, no, it's fine. We can still love her and accept her.
I definitely resonate. It's always like when I look back at like my old Facebook posts, I'm like, what
Yeah.
did I post? Why did I think that was okay?
Yeah. So funny. Anything else on self-love or body image that you feel that we didn't touch on yet?
I feel like we touched pretty much on like a lot of things, like a lot
Yeah,
of like basics of self-love and like foundation. So I think
totally.
I'm good.
Awesome. I feel really good about this. Oh, actually, one more thing that I wanted to say, like, there's this process of like asking your higher self, like visualize your higher self, like your higher self would probably fully love and accept herself, right? So like, like creating a list of things that just this really powerful, whatever for manifesting, but like creating a list of things that your highest version of yourself would be doing, would be like, how would they carry themselves? Like, just like visualize your highest self and like, what are they doing? Like, this girl, Audra, that I follow, she talks about this and she said like, and it doesn't always have to align with like what you're trying to manifest either. Like it might just be something intuitive that you feel. Like hers was like, and this isn't about diet or anything, but like she was like, okay, what is the version of me that's showing up and like in my business and blah blah blah, like shows up in my business the best. And she just got this intuitive thing, like the highest version of myself doesn't eat sugar, and it's nothing to do with like needing to lose weight or anything, but it's just like that doesn't serve me. So like, and among other things, but like it might not always align with exactly like, oh, I want to like have a certain like physique, so I go to the gym, whatever. Like it doesn't always need to be like exactly like aligned like that. Like it could be anything. The highest version of me, gets up at this time or whatever. Like you just allow whatever it is to come through and like write a list of what your highest version would be doing, and then like show up as that person, whether like, because you might feel like you don't like, you're not that person yet, but just start showing up as that person and then you'll flow into that version of yourself. So that's a really fun exercise to do.
Oh, and also what I like to add to that, like when I talk about getting clear on your highest vision, I like to ask people, it's like, how would your higher self approach rejection? Because
Mm,
it's like, as long as we're alive on this physical plane, you will go through some form of rejection. Maybe it's a job, maybe it's a client, whatever. And, that doesn't mean that you've not become the person who accepts themselves or surrounded by people who love and accept them. But, there is a lot of polarity where, the good and the bad happens
yeah,
throughout life. But like the way you approach your rejection, your pain, your insecurities is not the same way that your highest version of yourself would. Because
totally.
they notice rejection, they know it hurts, but they don't attach it to their self-worth.
Mm,
And, so I like to ask people like get deeper with like, how would they approach the circumstances? How would they hold the energy when things are when it's all crickets? How would they feel when they're receiving love? Is it uncomfortable when they receive compliments? Is it exciting? Is it expansive? What is it truly like? And like that's like that kind of clarity is what allows us to like truly be able to like step into that self and, you know, embody it on a deeper level.
Oh my gosh. I have a personal example of that. Like, I don't know, like maybe the first year that I was on YouTube, like making videos, just this like whole drama ensued where like this other coach on YouTube and like her coaches and blah, 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 it just like blew up into this whole drama, and they were all bullying me, like cyberbullying me, like in her Facebook group. And they're just like, oh, like you're copying her, and like calling me horrible, like swear word names, and like just on a public forum. And like, it was so terrible. And like, and I like brought it up with the coach, like the main person, and she like didn't want to do anything about it. And I was just like, I really looked up to her and like put her on this pedestal, and then she came crashing down because of like, which is an example of like putting someone above you as well. And like, have, if you put someone on a pedestal, they're going to come crashing down at some point. But yeah, and it's just like this whole like cyberbullying thing. And it just like made me like, I was like crying about it and stuff, and like stopped making videos for a while because I was like, oh, like who am I to make videos? Like I wasn't even copying her, but like they were just, you know, calling me names and stuff. And just, I really let it affect me. And like, yeah, just what you said about like what the highest version of you, like how would they like handle rejection or like bullying or whatever. Like, yeah, I just would handle it so differently now. But yeah, there's like an example of like, was not my highest version. I really let that like get me off track.
Yeah, and I mean, that would honestly get anyone off track. Yeah, it's just like the way that we approach the pain. But
yeah,
I'm sorry that this happened. Like that's horrible. It's unprofessional. It's like, I don't know. These people think like they ate, but all they ate is like your hate and your anger. It's like goodbye. Like, I'm sorry that you. It's just, it's so unprofessional. It's so childish, and it's like,
and it's ironic because it's like we're in the manifestation community. Like you'd think that we'd all be like, okay, like my mindset is like there's enough room for everybody. Like let's lift each other up. Like we can all collaborate, and we can like I'd love to see you win. Like let's all win. Like there's no shortage of people. There's no shortage of viewers. There's no shortage of like success. Like there's no shortage. There's no lack. We can all like we can all thrive. We don't need to like put other people down. There's no need for that. So it's just ironic, like in the manifestation community, that was happening. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know like verbatim and plagiarism exists in the community a lot, but it's the whole cyberbullying that's like,
yeah,
so weird because it's the coaches that are teaching you, you know, meditation and connecting within and how everything is within you are the ones who are like bullying. It's like, you might wanna double check if you wanna actually follow this person because it doesn't sound like they're an embodiment of it. So, like, go bye.
So there is that, but you know, it's okay. We kept on keeping on, so we're moving forward. Okay. Oh, actually, one last question that I want to ask you. Is there any book that you really like lately, or a book that has changed your life, or yeah, just like a spirituality manifestation book that like maybe in the beginning of your journey or something recently that you love? Any book or recommendation?
That's a good one because I read, like, I bounce off a lot of different books at the same time.
Why? Oh my god.
Yeah. I feel like with manifestation, like going back to basics is helpful, and it's something I've been feeling more drawn towards. I might like reread Ask and It's Given by Esther and Jerry Hicks. It was a really good book. Yeah. The Big Leap is also a good one by Gay Hendricks, which is all about like, you know, the upper limit problem when like you like you feel like you hit a glass ceiling like the moment because you're not like used to, let's say, feeling confident. So the moment you feel confident, it's like you hit a glass ceiling, you're back to insecurity or depression. So it's a really good book.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
And definitely You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay.
Love Louise Hay.
We love her body talk stuff, and it's also so cool.
Perfect.
Yeah, I guess it would depend on like what aspect of like manifestation, because like there's the science bit which I love. There's like the holistic side, so I guess it would depend.
Okay, yeah, those are great recommendations. One of them I haven't heard of, so I'm excited to check that one out. Okay, if you could leave the audience with one message, what would that message be?
Whew. I feel like I said a lot.
Or like a piece of advice for your younger self or something.
Oh, I would tell her, quiet the outside noise and the noise up here, and just like tune back into your heart and actually ask her what she wants. because that's going to be like the most authentic answer and the one that's going to lead you to what you want, where you want to go. Because there's so much noise out there, there's so much noise online, there's so much noise up here that sometimes having a selfish hour of just like listening and being like uncomfortable with your thoughts alone is what's going to like teach you like the biggest lessons. Might not make sense in the moment, but it will eventually make sense.
Yes.
What came to mind.
I love that. Quiet the outside noise and listen to your heart. I love it. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dial up that noise in here.
What's that?
Dial up that noise in here.
Yes, dial up the heart.
Yeah.
This has been a really amazing conversation. I'm so happy that we did this. So thank you for coming on. And yeah, so if people want to find you, what's your Instagram handle?
At Rozana.manifests_LLC.
Yeah, down below so people can just click on it. And you have coaching and programs and things like that?
Yeah, I have actually an upcoming self-love bootcamp coming soon. Announcing it really soon, but at the moment I have a freebie helping you like tap into self-love and releasing your insecurities and also uncovering your subconscious blocks. That's I put that in the link in my bio. And one-on-one coaching would be available in January. So currently I'm taking people on my wait list so that, we kickstart in January and, get them to, quantum leaping to their ideal life.
Amazing. Exciting. Thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. See you in the next one. Bye.